Let me begin with a very sad news. A powerful 6.9 magnitude earthquake struck Cebu province in Philippines, collapsing buildings and killing at least 69 people. Rescue operations are ongoing, with authorities using heavy equipments and sniper dogs to search for survivors. It's just news has come in the newsroom and to me as well. But we will start with the US federal government has officially shut down as Congress failed to pass funding legislation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first shutdown in nearly 7 years and is expected to affect hundreds of thousands of federal workers and disrupt some government services. This will be our first topic to discuss today. Let me welcome all of you inside the country and around the globe. My name is Rashid Kanchon. I will be your host at International Affairs, broadcasting from SATV's Dhaka studio. We will have very distinguished, very knowledgeable, my very favorite, John Charles Dalton, an international consultant who has huge expertise on analysis, news and breaking stories. He will be here in the studio. And from Washington, we will have Norman Flood Barnes, SATV's geopolitical correspondent based in Washington, who covers almost all high-level offices like White House, Oval Office, left-wing, right-wing, Congress, and of course Senate. And we will have Shamsul Alam Pantho. He is also from Washington DC. After covering UNGA, he will be joining us from Washington DC. Let me begin with Sir Dalton. Sir, you have heard the government shutdown is almost near to one step if there is no negotiation with Hakeem Jeffrey and Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit surprising in some respects, but also I'm very happy to see the Democrats holding out to make sure they get some kind of protection for the women and children who are on Medicaid and on Obamacare. But good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to everyone as well. It's nice to be here. Let me give you just a little bit of background. Okay, the reason why this has become a problem was that back in March, a continuing resolution, 6-month extension was allowed so that the parties could negotiate on all of the details and arrive at some sort of an agreement by September 30th. And in that interim, instead of negotiating and doing their work, many of the congressmen went home to avoid some contentious issues that were scheduled to be presented in the Congress. So little negotiation took place. Was sort of a gap that was not met. And built into that continuing resolution was also the end of what were called subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. These are amounts paid by the federal government to poor people who can't afford health insurance. And so people who have non-critical but chronic diseases and children who are having continuing problems with asthma or respiratory illnesses and other things, they would no longer be able to afford to pay the premiums for health care. And as a consequence of not being able to pay for their health care, almost 500,000 families would be affected by this cut that was being orchestrated by the Republican Party to deprive the Republicans of a victory.
Right, sir.
The fact that it's called Obamacare obviously rankles Mr. Trump, and so they were holding fast. So for this, even though it's only a 7-week period, this CR that they're fighting about is for 7 weeks only. They'll have to come back to the table and negotiate all over again, no matter what. The United States does not have a budget per se. They have continuing resolutions on 12 key spending bills. So I was a bit surprised that it got down to the wire. I was glad that the Democrats held fast. Norman pointed out yesterday that some people will clearly be affected, and that's true. Anybody who is a federal employee in the long run will be paid. Right. They'll be furloughed, but they will probably be paid. But other people will be affected. It's going to be like messy. That's the best word.
Right. So it is a political deadlock.
Absolutely.
Mr. Norman, it is a political deadlock. My first question would be to you, what are the main points of disagreement between Democrats and Republicans that led to this government shutdown? This is my first question to you. Along with, you can add what are the latest you have in your desk to put on the table for today's discussion.
Yes, I welcome everyone from Washington, D.C. this morning. Yes, the U.S. government is officially shut down as of 12 midnight. The issues are still persistent is healthcare. Under the present bill, under the present situation, all current health premiums are scheduled to go up next month, meaning twice. They're talking about the premiums. The average premium will be double the amount is going on now, which makes it cost prohibitive for the average person to be able to afford health care, which means they will not have health care, which means people will die. The situation is now the Democrats has decided that they are willing to hold off and prevent any type of bill passage, budget pass, until the government, the current administration, makes a concession about coverage of health care. So the situation right now is very, here in Washington, is very nasty. Just put the very point. The Republicans and the Democrats are at odds. Both parties do not want to move. They do not want to change. The Republicans and the president is talking about now, in addition to the 750,000 people furloughed, a majority of them will not be brought back, meaning he will terminate their employment. So that means, again, in addition to no health care, there will be no jobs, and the majority of these federal jobs are held by females. Some of them, most of them have single families and they are struggling. So we're looking at a very precarious situation, future moving forward. And right now, there's no solution in the upcoming days, months, or whatever. Some people are saying it may go through his entire administration. That's how serious this is.
Yes, Mr. Norman, when I'll do the next question to you, the question would be the impact on citizens. How will the shutdown affect ordinary Americans, especially federal workers, contractors, and people depend on government services? But by this time, before asking this question, I want to come to Sir John Dalton. It has an economic consequences.
Sure.
What short and long term impacts could this shutdown have on the US economy and global financial markets, according to you?
Well, in terms of the GDP, for example, in the U.S., the last time Donald Trump shut down the government in his first administration, the effect on GDP was significant. In a very short period of time, it was like 3.5%, and very impactful. And so, I mean, people make decisions, businesses make decisions going forward. Things are just shut down, so that items which were purchased were scheduled for delivery, not going to be delivered. There's no income. Things that are supposed to be constructed on schedule, construction projects are shut down. So the economy grinds to a halt in some sectors that are federally funded. Yesterday's stock market did not reflect any fear of a government shutdown. And maybe people are saying, okay, this is small enough of a problem that it can be resolved easily in the next week or so. Maybe, maybe they'll find some middle ground, some way to do this. I mean, if Donald Trump can bring the world to peace, solve 7 wars, why can't he get the Republicans and the Democrats to talk together to come up with a compromise solution? So I think that maybe I'm hopeful that there'll be a resolution. I've been on the bad end of this because I was a federal contractor working on a project that when the government shut down, I shut down, so incur no expenses. So there's something called the Anti-Deficiency Act, which prevents any federal manager from incurring expenses that are not authorized, and since there's no authorization because the government is shut down, you have to like send people home, don't report to work, you're on furlough. It's a messy situation, but I've been through that. It shakes itself out eventually, and people get their money if they're federal employees. If they're federal contractors, they don't get it. They're not covered. But a lot of people's lives are disrupted. It's just not right. You know, it's just
Right, as Norman is there on the spot in Washington.
Maybe Norman doesn't agree with me, though. I think Norman may have a different perspective than I do. So-
Norman, I think you are listening, Sir Dalton. I said that I will ask you a question on impact of citizens. How will the shutdown affect ordinary Americans, especially federal workers, contractors, and people depend on government services? As Sir Dalton said, that it has a huge impact on their daily lives even. How you going to explain this?
Yes, my commentary to that is similar, but a little bit more intense. Basically, people are not. Today is the 1st of October. Most people have mortgages and bills that are due today. Right now, there's no paycheck coming in, so they will have to make other alternatives. Use credit cards, which is never a good thing, and they have to defer bills off for a period of time. And at the same time, we have an impending rate hike in terms of health care for people who can't afford insurance. So there are serious situations going on here. We have people, the reason why we're here, because the health insurance is looking at going up, and they can't afford it. People can't afford insurance. And now the situation is people can't go to work. They can't get their money. They still have bills. And in some cases, some of these people have to go to work because they are essential employees. TSA, the police, law enforcement, certain things, they have to go to work. That is not a good situation to have people who are worrying about their bills, trying to protect you. That is not a good situation. In addition, we just, as of the 30th of September, we had over 100,000 people who took the voluntary retirement. They have not been paid yet. They have a situation where basically they are separate from the government, and they're waiting for their money. There's no one in the office to process this. So this is how the situation is going on. People are not stable, not happy, and they're very concerned about the future. And right now, the problem is we do not have a solution. They have not come to any type of terms of communication. The Senate went home. And we are making deals with pharmaceutical companies, the government, on starting business here. Well, the people are not happy with that situation, and we're looking at another problem.
All right, sir. I still can remember one speech by Barack Hussein Obama in 2004 in DNC Congress, National Democratic Congress. That time, John Kerry was contesting for the presidency of America against George W. Bush second term, and suddenly Chicago governor has come on the dais and he started a speech which actually made him the president of United States later. He says, there is no difference between left and right. There is no difference between blue states and red states. There is no difference between Christians and Muslims and Hispanic. There is a difference between the rich man and the poor man. There is a difference between the top and bottom. I still remember that speech, and it was a huge appreciated by the American people. They started to say, oh, this man talks like us.
Who is
this
this guy?
man thinks like us. That helps him to run for presidency in 2008. I said this because I need to know from one thing from you, historic context regarding this shutdown. This is the first shutdown in nearly 7 years. the 7 years ago, same thing happens in Donald Trump administration.
Right.
What lessons should lawmakers, congressmen, senators have learned from past shutdown that might have prevented this one?
Yeah, well, this is basically a manifestation of a structural problem in the way that the United States government does its budgeting and financial management. The last time we had a balanced budget, the last time we had a comprehensive budget, was when Bill Clinton and Al Gore were in the White House itself. And since then, there has never been a comprehensive policy-based budget adopted by the United States Senate and Congress. It has been a matter of spending bills, 12 individual, a spending bill for health, a spending bill for education. All of these are all individual, not interconnected in a policy way which would give anybody an overview of why we're spending this kind of money in this way. So it's a structural problem that needs to be corrected. And if as long as it continues with these continuing resolutions and everybody wants to like get their own little piece of the pie, we're going to be faced with this every year. I mean, every administration has had a shutdown. Some last 1 day, 2 days. The longest, of course, was Donald Trump's 35 days or 30 days, I forget the exact number. But basically, until we correct the institutional problem of the way the United States does its budgeting and financial management, this will be a continuing problem.
So can I get the last question regarding this from Norman? Norman, future outlook. I want to say, what compromises or strategies could realistically bring both parties back to the table and end this shutdown quickly, because the administration has to look at the life of people?
Well, the answer, my response to that is, we have no solution I see from the information I'm gathering from both parties on the Hill. We have basically a rich man, poor man situation. The people who have means, they are going to be okay. They're going to survive. They have a good cushion. The other part is the other 99% of the world, or the people in the country, are not in that position, and they cannot afford to live. Healthcare, the price of things going up, the inflation, jobs, all of this stuff is all coming to a hill. We have to make decisions on how we're going to do things. Basically, there's no money. The people are not getting the money. They're not getting the jobs. They're not getting up, and they're not getting the health care. So what do you expect is going to happen? We're going to have an impasse. It's not going to be resolved today, tomorrow, but until these representatives decide to do what's necessary for the people. That is the situation.
Norman, this morning I was watching one video clip broadcasted by Fox and ABC both. I have seen in a counter meeting between the Donald Trump and his colleagues, on the other side Netanyahu and his colleagues. Netanyahu has handed over one letter, which letter he has written to the Nobel Committee to nominate Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize this year. And I have seen how happy face of Donald Trump. I think you have seen this video. My question is, some commentators are saying Netanyahu is making happy to one person, that is Donald Trump, but 33 crore of American people are paying their tax-paid money to protect Israel. 33 crore people are engaging themselves to protect Israel. What kind of administration of bilateral deal it is? Norman.
That's a very difficult question. My initial response is they should basically reconsider. It's not a good time to even talk about that, particularly right now, today. Talking about Nobel Prize, there are other things I can't say on the air, but basically it's not a good atmosphere for even that conversation to even come up.
As an American, where freedom of speech is in the highest level, you like to say that, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me do a very direct question to my very favorite Sir John Charles Dalton. Do you believe Donald Trump should be rewarded, should be awarded, should be nominated for Nobel Peace Prize?
Well, I mean,
Do you vote him?
I think the Swedish gummies have more chance of being awarded the Nobel Prize than Donald Trump. Listen, people do things. He has this, Barack Obama lives in his brain 24/7. Obama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Even Barack himself said, well, I didn't deserve it. It was like it was like prospective. I was going to be a great guy. But, I mean, the whole Nobel process is to look at the character of the person who's being nominated. So even individual events, and when the fox recommends the chicken for a Nobel Peace Prize, you got to be careful. I mean, Netanyahu's endorsement seems to me like, since he is a pariah and he was shunned at the United Nations, his nomination is not likely to carry a lot of weight with the Nobel Committee. But Donald Trump has been doing everything he possibly can to try to position himself for the Nobel Peace Prize. A preemptive withdrawal from Afghanistan in the last administration led to people being killed. He wanted the Nobel Peace Prize. That's why he sent people to negotiate with the Taliban. And so now we have the Taliban in Afghanistan because he and Mike Pompeo wanted to get headlines. So he has been in the quest of the Nobel Peace Prize since he sat in the Oval Office, just to show that he is equal to Barack Obama, which mathematically is impossible, and I think culturally and civilization-wise is impossible.
All right, sir. According to editorial policy, I have been instructed not to do any comment, but from this show, I want to say Netanyahu, Vladimir Putin, and Donald Trump should get Nobel Prize jointly this year. Ladies and gentlemen, that's just kidding. Let us come to the diplomatic push for a Gaza peace plan. A US-led proposal for ending the Israel-Hamas war is gaining traction. The plan involves the creation of an international transitional authority for Gaza, rejecting forced displacement of Palestinians. Netanyahu's reaction and internal divisions on his cabinet are a key flashpoint. My first question to Sir John Dalton, proposal validity regarding how realistic is the idea of creating an international transitional authority in Gaza, and which countries or organizations could play a credible role in leading it so far?
Yeah. This has happened before. I remember, of course, when I was doing some work in Liberia, after the Civil War there was basically the same kind of an arrangement. A transitional government was in place. It's disempowering of the Palestinians, although there is a Palestinian committee that would report to this peace board that Donald Trump would lead. But it basically, the way it's, if everybody agrees to everything else, this is the least of their worries. I mean, you could in fact attract people who'd be very interested in doing this kind of a work internationally. There are development professionals that would welcome the challenge. I'm sure the U.S. has experts that would do it. I'm sure it could be funded by outside sources, whether it's the World Bank or the Qatari or Saudis or others.
Turkey is possible.
Turkey, yeah, maybe, but then they would provide experts. Don't forget, if it's going to be successful, whatever happens in Palestine or in Gaza is all in Arabic. It has to be discussed in Arabic. What happens in Cairo, or where this so-called peace board would sit with Tony Blair as the head of it, what's being discussed, I mean, that would be all the planning and organizing and getting the money and doing that kind of stuff. But all of the peace building, all of the work that has to be done on the ground is going to have to be done in Arabic. When I was there I worked with the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Planning. I mean, they all spoke English because they were all super educated. But once you get below that, I mean, you really had to speak a little bit of Arabic to try to get any progress made. So
language would be the barrier.
Language is definitely a barrier, and given over the past several years, many of the educated elite have left. There's no place to live for people to come back. I mean, it's a shambles.
Right.
So you have to look at the realistic picture. Okay, this is probably the one that could be implemented if all other things could be accepted. But there are many, many, many hidden bombs in this agreement. You know, trapdoors that I don't know if Hamas can accept them. I don't think that some of the Israeli cabinet can accept them. But I wish them the best. I hope. I really would love to see it happen.
Sir, I have a news regarding this. According to your question, I want to put it for Norman. The Palestinian concerns about this peace plan. The plan rejects forced displacement, and does it adequately address Palestinian aspirations for self-determination and long-term statehood? What are you going to say, Norman Flatt Barnes from Washington, D.C.?
Yes, sir. My question is Palestine. We talk about Gaza, but the word Palestine been omitted. The statehood, is Palestine statehood on the table? Is Palestine is going to be involved in the governing of the region, the area? How does Israel de-escalate? How long? When? Who? Who's going to deal with this? The Arab nations, are they involved? Or is it going to be outside Western influence on this? Is it another type of colonization? Or is it just a situation where we're going to keep you in a confined area and we're going to control what's going on? It appears to be more like a surrender declaration than a peace negotiation, a ceasefire. Is like basically a concession. These are the terms of your surrender. How is that going to be perceived by the people of Palestine? Are we lost? Are we involved in the situation? What is the future of our people? How are you going to deal with the people who are currently dead and the ones who wants to come back into the country? All these issues has to be brought out. Currently, right now, it doesn't look well. Hamas and the Palestinians are not viewing this as a very positive thing for them. It's more for a situation for the region, peace, quiet, but it has nothing to do with the Palestinian goal.
All right, sir. Time has come to go for a short break, but I still have two more questions on Israeli politics. I have an update on Israeli internal politics and regional impact. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to go for a short commercial break.
Explore the magnificent view of Rangpur. 5-star facilities, rich chain hotel, Grand Palace. Relax in spacious rooms and suites. Enjoy local and international cuisines. And conference room, helipad, gymnasium, beauty salon, restaurants and bar, cafe lounge, experience luxury at Grand Palace, Rangpur.
Let me start from Sir Dalton. Sir, regional impact, I want to talk about this. Is this proposal gains traction? How might it affect broader Middle East dynamics, especially relations with Egypt, Jordan and Gulf states?
Yeah, well, Egypt has always been supportive of the Palestinian cause. They many times when all of the negotiations take place, they take place in Cairo. Egypt is very much supportive of the Palestinian cause, but they don't want people moving there. That's a little bit different. That's especially true in Jordan. I mean, Jordan already is a heavy populated, heavy proportion of the population is Palestinian. And to give them even more has always been assumed would destabilize the monarchy. And that is not something which Jordan is willing to entertain. It's very difficult. You know, they're very supportive, and the king is a wonderful guy and has done great things for the Palestinian.
He's a very smart guy as well.
Yeah, and good guy. So, so I think they sort of want to give their verbal support. They'll do whatever they possibly can. They'll help in any way they can, but please don't send us too many more. Officially, send us any more Palestinians. I think the Gulf states are really the bank. They have to provide the money for it. I mean, Qatar has been recently a source of this, and anybody who saw the World Cup and saw what happened in Doha and Qatar and how they built an entire infrastructure in a year's time would be impressed that, okay, they could probably pull off some major stuff in Gaza were they given the opportunity. And the U.S., of course, has military bases in the Gulf that it's a delicate balance for all those countries there as well. So I think the regional I think the region would love to see this. But you still have, you know, if Israel needs to change, the long-term play is for Hamas to say, okay, we'll do this, and just hope that Netanyahu is voted out of office.
All right, sir. As you mentioned Netanyahu, let us talk about the impact of this deal in Israel's internal politics. How are Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu internal cabinet divisions shaping Israel's response to this proposal, and could political instability in Israel derail the plan? Mr. Norman, I think you will answer better than us on these particular issues.
Yes. The situation we're dealing with, you have to understand my Israeli brother brothers have a certain mindset. This intrusion, this horrible act, October 7th, is resonating with them in their soul. Hamas and the Israeli government are bitter enemies. It's not going to be a situation where the question is Hamas says, okay, we lay down our arms. Well, honestly, if they lay down their arms, they will be exterminated. They know that. I mentioned sometime before the Israeli plan is to seek and destroy Hamas anywhere on this planet. And they mean this. We have situations in the past, we know, and I can tell you from my personal experience, that they will follow them to the ends of the earth, no matter may it be. If they go to the moon, they will go to the moon to get them. So we had the situation, I give you a good example, Munich. What happened after Munich? What efforts was taken by the Israeli Mossad to go after the perpetrators of people they perceived? They went wherever it took to get there. Nothing changed. It will be the same. So even if they come to the terms, they come to peace, the people who they perceived who have initiated this will be hunted down. So the mindset of the Israeli mindset is that we will get you, no matter where you at, no matter how long, no matter how far it's going to be. That is the plan. So we have a situation where I believe that the Israeli government is out to eliminate Hamas. Hamas has a similar type of mentality, and they are defensive, offensive, same situation. We have two parties who want to kill each other, totally kill it. So all this other stuff in between is basically nice, but the end game is that we looking at destruction between the two parties.
Mr. Norman, let us come to a point. I have seen Wall Street Journal, I have seen Washington Post and New York Times, particularly these three outlets this morning, including the Politico. I have seen the headline is tensions in US military strategy rhetoric. So I need to ask you a question on that. US President Donald Trump has made statements suggesting US cities could become training grounds, quote unquote, for the military, framing the country as being under invasion from within. I took this quote from Washington Post. My question would be rhetoric versus the reality. What does Donald Trump mean by calling US cities training grounds for the military, and is there any constitutional or legal basis for such an unprecedented idea according to the history of 275 years of American history, American beauty, American democracy, American politics, Mr. Gentleman?
I wish he would not have made that what we call a fraudulent slip. That comment was very untimely, unprofessional, and he obviously didn't think what he was saying. So I believe if he had a chance to retract that, he would have put that back. He would have taken that back. Anytime you're talking about American cities, practice area, play areas, that is very sensitive issues. He met with the generals, the admirals, the military leaders yesterday, and it was a subtle, he alluded to a subtle thing that we will be putting our military forces into the cities, into the United States to questionably suppress aggression and what they perceive as threats. However, one thing he forgot is that military leaders took a constitutional oath, not an oath to him, a constitutional oath. So there will be issues. Actually, there will be direct conflict regarding that. It's contrary to their overall mission to basically go against the people in the United States. So anything dealing with the military and the citizens is going to cause a lot of problems, and the existing leadership
Sir
is going to deal with it.
All right, Sir Norman Floyd Barnes, a huge thanks. I apologize, I'm not an expert of American history, American politics and American administration, but I have huge interest on American politics because I'm a student of political science. I study a lot on that. Norman, have a great day. I want to come back to you, sir. I already apologized that I'm not an expert on American history, American politics, American administration, but I go through a lot because of my profession. Sir, my question is about the domestic security. By framing the US as being under invasion from within, uttered by the President Donald Trump himself, what groups or threats is Trump referring to, and how could this rhetoric influence public opinion and policy? Because I have been in United States many times. I studied in Washington DC. I worked in Washington DC. I have seen the American people doesn't like to see the military man on the street. To be very honest, it is my observation. They want to live a very civil, humble life.
Well, as Norman pointed out, it's against the law. I mean, first of all, the Posse Comitatus Act of the United States government prohibits the United States military from engaging in domestic security issues except under the Emergency Preparedness Act. So Trump knows he's violating the law. His administration and his senior advisors knows he's violating the law to send the U.S. military into American cities to ostensibly advance the peace. But his attitude is, all right, stop me. Okay, I have the power, you stop me. He said when he first was nominated, I have the power to stand in Fifth Avenue in New York and shoot a bullet down the street. Who's going to stop me? And that is his political philosophy. Now, he always picks the cities that are Democratic. He loves to pick cities that have a black mayor. I mean, Chicago has a black mayor, Memphis, Tennessee. I mean, he always goes after the targets which sort of reinforce his relationship with the base of racists that have put him into office. This enemy within that he talks about, okay, he's imagining that there is some sort of a massive enemy force that's out there. If he means values, some values in cities are different than the values in rural area, that farmers are different than working men, and that people who work in the rural areas and go to school in rural areas who are white Christians are different than the black people who live in the cities. He's creating another division, separating Americans by class and race and gender. I mean, it's such a fascist approach that it's very, very unsettling to an American citizen to hear somebody talk about the enemy within, as if there is some force in the United States that only exists in cities, only exists in black areas, and that it is rising up against the traditional power and values of the United States. I mean, this is very unsettling. Now, maybe Norman's right. Maybe it was a Freudian slip. I think it was typical Trump. You know, typical Trump.
Sir,
if you saw that speech, I want to just go. If you saw that speech by Hegseth and Trump yesterday, what a couple of out-of-touch individuals they were. My God, it was embarrassing. Embarrassing. Trump was up there looking like roly-poly, and
yes,
Hegseth
I've seen
was
the video,
marching
sir.
around. My God, it was like a clown show.
I have seen the video, sir. I want to put one thing for your notice, that one Democratic Senator, James Talarico, recently became very popular for speaking.
Talarico.
Yeah, Congressman. He says, and he's assuming one thing. He says publicly that Donald Trump is planning to steal the next election.
Yeah.
He ordered the governor of Texas to create 5 more seats from Texas. This
Yeah.
is publicly broadcasted. I will come to discuss on that, including Russia, Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, time has again come, and production team, including the producer, is pushing me too much to go for a short break.
এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো ৮০টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10 Dhaka. elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone.
Very dangerous. He said, President Donald Trump has ordered or talked with the governor of Texas to create anyway, anyhow, 5 more seats to secure his midterm elections in 2026. This is so dangerous. As I understand a little bit about a journalist and a student from political science, if it is true, what consequence or reactions will be there for Donald Trump, and if it is not true, what consequences James Tallarico is going to face, because Donald Trump is a person who never excuse anyone.
Yeah, I like Tallarico a lot. I think he's a very nice young man. He's a very competent speaker. He understands the issues. He's part of the new breed of Democrats with AOC and Tallarico and other people like that, who represent the next wave of Democratic leaders. So I'm impressed by him. What he's talking about is a sort of an arcane issue in American politics, which is called gerrymandering. And what it is the ability of people to create congressional districts which overrepresent the population of Republicans versus Democrats, so it becomes a safe seat. And so Trump was looking at Texas and said, well, listen, why don't you go out and create for me 5 seats, redraw your maps, redraw your boundaries, get it approved by the legislature, and the next 2026 election will give us more Republicans in Congress.
Yes, sir.
That created a firestorm, not just in Texas. One was questioned whether it was even illegal. But Gavin Newsom in California said, okay, if that's what you want to do, I'll create 5 new seats, Democratic seats in California, to offset any advantages you tried to get in Texas. And so we end up with this, several states are trying to look at how do they structure their electoral maps. The Supreme Court, historically, but who knows what they'll do now, historically has very much protected equal rights. One man, one vote. They do not want to see gerrymandered districts where the borders are all stretched all over the place to protect one person. Jim Jordan's district in Ohio is a perfect example of a gerrymandered district that goes up to the Lake Erie and goes down here. But that's what they're looking for. They're looking for these, they have to be contiguous areas, but they do not have to be fully representative of like some sort of consistency between the voting population. So this is a problem. Tallarico, I think he'll be a thorn in Trump's side. Welcome, be great. The people in like Johnson and Mike Johnson could make his life difficult in Congress. But I think he is, he's brave enough to say what he has to say. He's good enough.
Yeah, he already said the governor has threatened him
and I think he's right, though. That's what make it back there. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
vacant his seat.
This is definitely a trial run for the necessity to mobilize federal troops to protect so-called election
Rigging.
Yeah, to protect against rigging. Now, psychologically, if you win an election, and some people question how it's possible that 7 states that were toss-up states all went for Trump. If you win an election, why do you say the election was rigged? And why is it likely that it's going to be rigged in the future? So I think that there's a tell there.
Yes, sir.
I think there's a tell that he may well have been saying.
So far, I have gone through the American Constitution. The increasing seat or decreasing seat happens once in a decade.
After the census. That's
after
correct.
the census. And this took place in 2021 in Texas.
Yep.
Why it is required in 2025 in the middle of the decade?
It's never been done before. It's not. This is a mid-census readjustment of the seats. But the legislature in any state can do it, can modify or try to modify the election. But you're working in the cap. These 5 seats are not in addition to what's already in Congress. The congressional number is set by law. So you have 435 seats. They have to be apportioned among the states by the census, on population. And then based on that, within that number, the legislature in individual states can make a determination of the boundary for each one of the congressional districts. So the idea is not to create 5 additional districts. It's to reapportion the population of the existing districts and population so that they are winnable by Republicans. So the number of seats in Texas won't change. It's just that they'll be all fixed for Republican majority.
This is a bit complex for us, sir. In last 3-4 minutes, we want to talk about the Russians' attack on Ukraine in a daytime. It happens very rarely. I can give you news. In a rare daytime attack, a Russian drone hit the city of Dnipro, killing 1 person, injuring 20 others. 1 building collapsed and few buildings are shaking right this moment. I want to do a question like this: battlefield versus democracy. With Russian intensifying drone and missile attacks and Ukraine carrying out counterattacks inside Russia became successful, is the battlefield overshadowing and any prospects for real negotiations? Because fight is going on, negotiation trying is going on. Which one will win? Which one will reveal?
Well, I want to go back to a quote that Putin made about this being a righteous battle. And you remember the first time I came on the show, I said, well, you know, Putin is actually doing the Patriarch Kirill's work, the Russian Orthodox Church. He's really fighting this battle on behalf of Russian Orthodoxy in Ukraine. And those 2 countries have different, both Orthodox churches, but they are different patriarchs. And so this is a righteous battle to allow the Russian Orthodox Church to return to its rightful power over Ukraine. I think that diplomacy, therefore, will never work. Putin will refuse to meet with Zelensky forever. As I mentioned, Mr. Zelensky is Jewish, and
Putin is an Orthodox.
He's Jewish, so it's against Putin's orthodoxy. It's very difficult for them to sit down at the same table from Putin's side. So maybe it can be somebody else can come in for him, but it's very, very difficult. So I think that diplomacy has got to be put on the back burner.
Sir, I have huge curiosity to ask you questions. You know, the only one man in the world, we call him Xi Jinping.
Yeah.
He is advised by the high level of advisory council from Chinese Communist Party. On the other side, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is advised by RSS, Rashtriya Sevak Sangh. President Donald Trump is advised by himself. My curiosity is, President Vladimir Putin is advised by whom?
By whom?
Yes.
Yeah, as I said, I think he has a direct pipeline into the Russian Orthodox Church. He's a traditionalist. He has a cabinet. He has senior officers. He has the military that report to him as well. But he's an egomaniac. I mean, he's clearly just going to do things. He and Trump are perfect bookends. They both believe that they have all the power, and in some respects, Putin has much more power over his government and population than Trump does. Trump is a bit of bombast and a showman, but Putin can actually deliver the goods. Putin will come and smile and shake Trump's hand and then go back and bomb Ukraine. He's a master at playing Trump as Donald, you're so wonderful. So that's my sense.
One of my very distinguished panelists, Ali Ahmed, says Putin is a cool calculator. Ladies and gentlemen, still we have so many things to discuss, but time is running so fast. Today is 1st October. It is International Day for Older Persons. At your home, you have parents, you have grandparents. Please take care of them. United Nations is observing this day worldwide. And one more thing is very special to me today. Today is a birthday of one person who has changed the world. His name is Jimmy Carter, former president. He born October 1, 1924, and he has lived 100 years. He died last year, December 29, 2024, at the age of 100. I'm a big fan of this 39th President of the United States of America because I have read out his 30 books, ladies and gentlemen, and I still remember a few quotes from one of his books, A Full Life, A Call to Action and Faith. I have a great wish from my whole team of production, whole team of television, and of course from Dalton, Jimmy Carter. Rest in peace.